chambers cannot take a day off, a week off, or a month off. What we're working on is literally setting the prosperity projection for your community for decades and decades and decades. And so if you're not good, you're causing harm to the very people that live in your community. If you're good and if you're passionate and you take your job very seriously, knowing that everybody's relying on you, you're actually creating prosperity for the children in your community, their prosperity in the future, and their children and their children. It is that important.
This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and here on the podcast, I introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our guest for this episode is Matt Pivarnick. Matt is the CEO of the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative, an organization that brings together the diverse portfolio of community, tourism, economic development initiatives, including the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, Visit Myrtle Beach, and the Myrtle Beach Regional Sports Alliance. With a career dedicated to transforming communities, he's held numerous high-impact leadership roles across the country. Prior to his current position, he served for a decade as the CEO of the Greater Topeka Partnership, where he led a unified model over a dozen organizations focused on economic growth and regional development. Matt's leadership extends nationally, having served as chair of the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Kansas, chair of the U.S. Chamber Institute for Organization Management, National Board of Trustees, and in multiple advisory board roles supporting chamber excellence and economic strategy. He's a CCE and currently serves on the ACCE Board of Directors. A graduate of Northeastern State University with a degree in business management, Matt has also completed executive programs through the Center for Creative Leadership and the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative. Beyond his professional accomplishments, Matt is also the founder of MACO, a regional network for economic development leaders and chamber executives, and he remains deeply committed to the community impact. He and his wife, Wendy, recently relocated to Myrtle Beach and are proud parents and grandparents with a strong family legacy rooted in service, leadership, and contribution. But Matt, I'm excited to have you back on Chamber Chat Podcast. This is a treat to have you back on the show. But I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to all the chamber champions who are out there listening and to share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little better.
Yeah. Chamber champions, economic development champions, tourism development champions. That's my tribe, right? And so hi to everybody. There's almost a little bit of an intimidating opportunity with Brandon because I know that a lot of smart people watch this podcast. And so Brandon, it's really good to be with you. I think the last time that we connected like this, I was in Topeka, Kansas in a role that a pretty amazing person, Molly Howie, is in that role now. And I couldn't be more proud of her.
Yeah. Just for perspective, that was back in episode 102. So if anybody wants to go back and check that out, this is episode 385. So we've come a long ways, but go back and see Matt from 2001.
Very cool.
Check out that past episode. Tell us a little bit about the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative. I know we'll focus a lot on the formation of the collaborative, but just high level, size, staff, scope of work, budget, things like that to set the stage for us.
Right. Well, the collaborative was actually officially created in April, and it was one of those things that I never imagined that I would move to the Myrtle Beach region in 2025, and then in 2026 be launching really a new structure and a new organization. What I found when I got here is that my board, they were ready to go, and so I'm a bit of a change agent, and they were too, and so that was helpful. I would say our staff is right around the 50 mark. We have multiple organizations working together here. We have a fairly significant budget. We have a good sized budget, bigger than most, because I think when people think about Myrtle Beach, they don't understand that when it comes to room nights and how many hotels we have and just the lodging that we have in this community. I mean, it rivals Nashville and Orlando and lots. So it is a very, very, very big tourism market. So I almost hesitate to talk about our budget.
Right.
I think this year that we're in right now, it's probably somewhere in the 80 million, the $90 million mark. But again, those aren't dollars that we get to use to operate. A lot of those dollars are used to market this destination that ends up with 18 to 20 million visitors a year that come to this destination. So we have a really strong chamber. Our chamber has great brand equity in Columbia, in Washington, D.C., with a really good working relationship here. So yeah, it's very similar to what I had in Tulsa, very similar to what I had in Topeka, Kansas, and that is multiple community and economic development organizations all agreeing to be on one team and doing this community and economic development thing together.
Yeah. That is awesome. That definitely helps to set the stage. I think it makes a whole lot of sense how the collaborative form, but to be able to really align all those efforts together under one purpose and one direction. So we'll dive in much deeper on that as soon as we get back from this quick break.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rose.
And we're the founders of At My Community, a mobile app that can be customized to meet the unique needs of your Chamber of Commerce.
When we started At My Community, we envisioned a tool that would help communities thrive by simplifying communication and enhancing engagement. Chambers of Commerce face unique challenges, and we're here to help you tackle them.
At My Community helps the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce to create an app that keeps tourists informed even when their office is closed. They provide 24/7 access to local business information, which helps support the local economy and community engagement.
In Rocky Mountain House, we helped the Rocky Chamber create an app with dynamic itineraries and digital resources for tourists, increasing local business engagement. The app has become an essential tool for the community, promoting events and boosting visibility for local merchants.
Today, we empower more than 200 chambers of commerce, campgrounds, and RV resorts to streamline communication, informing members about events, sharing business updates, and providing a digital hub for the community, all in one convenient app.
When you partner with At My Community, our team works closely with you to create an app that meets your chamber's unique needs. As your community grows, our app evolves with you. We are here to ensure you engage effectively with your members and streamline your operations.
Schedule a demo today at atmycommunity.com.
We can't wait to meet you.
Are you ready to take your organization's funding to the next level? Hi, I'm Clint Neesmith, CEO of Resource Development Group. As a Chamber of Commerce or economic development organization leader, I know you understand the value of working with experts who understand your world. And that's exactly what RDG does best. For over 30 years, RDG has specialized in fundraising for EDOs and chambers. We bring cutting-edge strategies tailored to your organization, whether you're just starting out or gearing up for yet another new funding cycle. Importantly, our firm executives are hands-on from start to finish, from the feasibility study to the successful conclusion of your fundraising campaign, and our team brings deep industry roots and national expertise to every engagement. No matter the size of your community, RDG delivers data-driven, innovative revenue solutions, reinforcing ROI to investors and making sure your vision becomes reality. At RDG, we proudly build organizations that build communities. Visit us today at rdgfundraising.com and let us partner with you, building a stronger future for your organization and the community you are working to grow and develop.
All right, Matt, we're back, but I wanted to dive in deeper on the collaborative. So you mentioned it very similar to what you had when you were at the Tulsa Chamber and Greater Topeka partnership. We covered a similar topic when you were on the show before, talking about the arrangement there in Topeka. But tell us there, specific to Myrtle Beach, how did the collaborative come to be? And I can only imagine it getting everybody involved and on the same bus, as they say, getting them the right people in the right seats on the bus. How did all that come together?
You know, I actually did not realize this when I was going through the process, that courtship, that two-way courtship of maybe coming to a community. And I didn't realize this, but what I found is, and I found this overall, is that there are a lot of people across the United States that are just fascinated with the model of the Greater Topeka Partnership. So I knew that model would be a great model in Myrtle Beach. What I didn't know is that the leadership, the elected leaders, the private sector leaders of this community, they were also eyeballing that model. So what I found is I found a community that was hungry to create more collaboration and create more collaboration between the economic and community development organizations. So I thought that we would be creating something like the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative in 2027 or 2028. And lo and behold, we ended up creating it in April of 2026. It came together nicely. I pinched myself a little bit because I got to arrive in this community at the exact same time that this community was making a decision that we're all going to work better together and that a rising tide raises all ships. I mean, we represent a lot of municipalities. It's a big
Yeah.
MSA. And so lo and behold, we now have the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative, and we've built this organization that has shared service so that we can share our resources no matter what vertical we're working on in the community.
Yeah. So who drives that conversation? Because each of these organizations, many of them have their own boards. They all have
Yes.
their own staff. They
Yeah.
all have their own areas of work that they're involved with. So to get that collaboration and to really drive the conversation forward, to be able to have something tangible come out
Yeah.
of it, who drives that conversation?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I personally I'm the CEO of the collaborative, and then we have presidents of different organizations. I actually work for the collaborative board, and so the collaborative board is really kind of that parent company, sort of the Yum brands, of economic and community development. So that's who I work for. Recently, I was in a board meeting, and it was the collaborative board meeting. I always like to say I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. I went to a collaborative board meeting and a Visit Myrtle Beach board meeting broke out, right? And so, but they're well within their rights because they care about all of these organizations. But really, who drives it is there's a collaborative board that I work for. That board is actually made up of board members from the other entity boards that come together and make up that board. We also have a lot of ex officios on our board, so we're not afraid to have elected officials in our room. And on all of our boards, we have ex officio board members. There's a Visit Myrtle Beach board, there's a chamber board, there's a Partnership Grand Strand board, which is our economic development foundation that kind of supports our other organizations. And then we have a host of other organizations. So what we find is that each person stays in their vertical lane. So the Visit Myrtle Beach board definitely drives the tourism narrative, right? And the chamber board is definitely driving that legislative success program. And so each board has their part that they're doing, and they're really driving that leadership. They're not subservient to that collaborative board in any way, shape, or form. They're really just collaborating with the collaborative board. So it sounds messy, but it actually is very beautiful. And every once in a while, we will have a board meeting and we'll have to just say, hey, you know what? That's a great point. Let's take that up at the next chamber board meeting because that's really an initiative that the chamber would drive. And you know what? You are actually welcome to come and be a guest at that board meeting so that you can make your voice heard there. So it's a beautiful set of messiness that works for collaboration.
So I picture the collaborative board meetings being more high level.
Yeah.
Here's the big vision for the area, what we
Yeah.
would like to see happen. And then kind of those marching orders go back to the individual boards for each organization within the collaborative. Is that correct?
Yeah, the collaborative board actually they manage me.
Yeah.
Right? They manage me. They look at overall community strategy. They also manage the finance and administration portion of this entity that we call the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative. And so I would say that the collaborative board is at 50,000 feet and they're looking
Yeah.
down at 50,000 feet. When you get into those other boards, they're in the 5 to 20,000 foot range and they're really digging in to the details of what each of those verticals are working on.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. Before we created this, if you came to what was referred to as the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, which actually housed all of those different organizations, if you came to that board meeting, what you would find is while we were talking about government affairs, legislative success, what you would find is that our tourism leaders were in a way maybe checking their emails on their phones, right? But our universities and our bankers and other the non-tourism people were really tuned in and they were really dialed in our construction companies. And then when you started talking about tourism related issues, what you would find is when you're talking about tourism related issues, those other folks would be a little bit more checked out. Now, what you find is because we're staying so focused, no one's checked out. Everybody is really, they have their sleeves rolled up and they're really dialed into whatever we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's probably good to talk about the different organizations that make up the collaborative in general. So we know the Chamber of Commerce, Visit Myrtle Beach, talked about I'm going to get the name wrong, but the sports the sports
Yeah,
group.
right.
Tell us what, and the economic development, Grand Strand.
Okay, I would say that the primary organizations as of now, so we've actually built this collaborative to where we could bring other organizations in the future if they so wish. It's not something that we're out there seeking. We've got a lot on our plate,
Yeah.
but we are definitely built for shared services and built for collaboration. And we're in talks with multiple organizations right now about potentially joining the collaborative. Right now, the collaborative is the 501c6 organization that's the holding company. We have Visit Myrtle Beach. We have the Chamber of Commerce. We have Partnership Grand Strand, which is a foundation that's working on community development, economic development, different things. We do have a great county partner in economic development right now that's not officially part of the collaborative, but is unofficially one of our closest confidants and allies. We have a sports authority. We're in the process of actually creating a true sports commission. So that is definitely part of the collaborative. We run Leadership Grand Strand out of the collaborative. So it's a multi-community leadership program. Grand Strand Young Professionals, which is a workforce initiative. And I'm probably forgetting some, but really and we're actually right now as a community driving a community strategy called Collaborate 2031. And that's
Okay.
14 different communities really driving the strategy. And we're actually partnered with AHA Advisors, Amy Holloway with AHA Advisors working on that project.
Okay. Very good. So you brought up an interesting point with the individual board meetings for the different organizations, and certain board members maybe check out, and certain topics aren't aligned with tourism and they, run a hotel or something. So do you see, or do you anticipate a change in the makeup of those individual boards being more focused on that individual organization?
Yeah, we're working on that. Over time, we're definitely going to work on that. We want our tourism leaders to be part of the chamber board. I mean, the
Right.
chamber tourism is a huge industry, obviously, at the Grand Strand and in the Myrtle Beach region. So yeah, over time, it will be one of those things that as we curate our boards going forward, over time, I see that those will shift as we're learning how to live as a true collaborative. So, but right now, I mean, just the bylaws alone getting a partnership or a collaborative or an alliance set up, that first year, bringing together so many administrative things and making sure that your bylaws are right. But my guess is I bet every quarter we will have tweaks to our bylaws while we're working at making sure that this collaborative is really setting us up for future success.
That it makes sense.
Mhm.
It also sounds tough to constantly be looking at the bylaws and making the changes
Well, the
because
nominating process, it's like draft day around here, right? We start
right.
we start our nominating process on tax day. So back in April, we actually literally started our process. And what I find is all the different boards are saying, I want that person on my board. I want that person. And they almost race to have their nominating committee meetings first. And so even the nominating process is really interesting because everybody's looking for that community talent to be on their boards. And I think this time I've made sure that the collaborative nominating committee comes first, just before the rest of those organizations. It worked out that way from a calendar standpoint. I did not force that to happen, but that's the way it's going to happen.
Yeah. That's great. So I've seen in other communities where maybe a chamber wants to merge with an economic development organization in their community or a tourism agency, and because they're all separate, but they're afraid they're going to step on toes, so they're going to push somebody out of a job or overstep another board. So how do you do it in a cohesive way to be able to say, we're all working towards a very similar purpose. Let's align our efforts, share resources, make this more cohesive.
Yeah, it can actually it's actually a good exercise to go through because what you want to do is if their North Star is let's do what's best for this community. And if that becomes everybody's North Star, then egos go away. Egos have to go away, right? And I think that is the key, is that once everybody realizes, let's do what's absolutely 100% best for our community, even if it might not be the best thing for maybe me personally, or a certain staff member, or a board, or a certain organization, is just use that North Star. And it really does work out if everybody just sets their mindset. And there have been some attempts in the United States to merge some organizations, and that completely makes sense. Brandon, if you knew, some of the ones I was talking about, and they never actually got across the finish line. And I'm not going to say who that was. I never would,
I'm sure.
but it was egos that killed it. Egos.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen the successful merge, and for some, even just two chambers maybe merging together. Like,
Yeah.
you're only going to have one chamber executive, right? So in the end, maybe one of them stays on as staff for a while, or maybe moves to a different community or something.
You know,
But
you know who I like to celebrate? I think that so many organizations like the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative, or One Spartanburg Inc., or the Greater Topeka Partnership, people that have done it in the last 5 to 10 years, get a lot of credit, right? A lot of credit. I think the credit goes to the Tulsa, Oklahomas, and the Oklahoma cities, and the Greater Houston Partnership, the communities that you have out there that actually resisted the urge to break up in the first place, right?
right.
Because if you go back to the 70s and 80s, most of these entities were together under one Chamber of Commerce organization, and a lot of them they stayed the course, and they didn't break up. And I think they deserve so much credit, but it's all these new entities that are being created that are getting all of the love. I think that they're the ones that deserve the love.
Yeah. Well, I love with the format that you guys have set up to be able to be welcoming to other organizations that make sense to be part of the collaborative, and move things forward, and just keeping that open mind, and moving the Myrtle Beach area forward.
Well, I think one of the things that's beautiful here, and we didn't create this in Myrtle Beach, right? It actually, other organizations created this, is this notion of having these separate boards. We are staying in our verticals, and where we're doing our job, but at the same time we roll up into a collaborative. I think that's beautiful, and quite frankly, I think that the Allegheny Conference in Pittsburgh they were a great model. I know that when I was in Topeka and in Tulsa, that we studied that model.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the shared services, because I think
Okay.
that's huge with the alignment, to be able to
Yeah.
bring it all together and be able to have that vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What
not
all do you
easy.
share?
It's not easy. Okay. So I will say the entities here, they share me. I'm a shared service. So today, I will be doing some things I think today, on this date specifically, I think I'm doing something for 4 of our organizations. So I'm shared. Finance is
Okay.
shared. Our CFO is shared, and our whole finance team. Obviously, we have a fairly large finance team because we are entrusted with so many public dollars. Our marketing and communications, this is one where it gets really sticky in organizations, right? But marketing, communications, and PR. So almost taking all of the talent from each of these organizations, putting them together, and say, you are now the Marcom PR organization. So like an internal agency. Another one that is awesome, that really is great, is revenue generation. So resource development, fundraising, making sure that when members join the Greater Myrtle Beach Collaborative, hey, it's really cool because you're a member of multiple organizations, not just one organization. But if we need to go out and raise money for sponsorships, or for investment in a specific initiative, you can centralize that fundraising or that resource development. So there's even like data and economics, and having an economist. Most of these entities would not be able to have a really good research staff, a research collaborative that will this for that purpose, is really awesome. And then things like space, like a really nice boardroom.
Yeah.
We're in the process of building an incredible boardroom that is bigger than the boardroom we have right now. And guess what? Multiple organizations use that boardroom to take it forward. Right.
Yeah. That's a great synopsis of a lot of those shared services. And I can imagine, like you said, the marketing and PR can get a little sticky. I
Yeah.
know content creators, they have their content calendar, right? I
But
imagine they have to kind of still have a little bit of a silo of, this is tourism, this
they
is
do.
what, so they can't look at the calendar as a whole and say, well, we already have 3 things going out. They can look more specific at
Yeah.
what's the purpose.
But what's really cool is, especially between economic development, chamber of commerce, and tourism organizations, a lot of the collateral, and usually tourism organizations are the ones that are well funded and they can do some really cool marketing, right?
Yeah.
And whereas chambers, they're not as well funded. And so they're having to bootstrap their marketing budgets. What's really cool is a lot of what a visitors bureau can create is really good marketing for a chamber of commerce, a leadership program, an economic development organization. So actually sharing that collateral, sharing that public relations muscle and that power, it's pretty cool. And it also gets communities aligned where they don't have a brand demolition. It
Yeah.
literally is consistency and brand. And so I think it works. It just takes a little while to make sure that each entity is getting the love that they deserve from that shared Marcom PR group.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point between tourism and also I've seen in communities where economic development can do some really cool marketing stuff where chambers have to bootstrap and get a little more creative with
Yeah.
how they, get the messaging out. But
Right.
when you have it all there together, they can all be supportive of each other. I like that. So I think it's safe to assume that you're a fan of this type of a model coming from Tulsa to Peak. I mean, where it
Yeah.
fits, where it makes sense,
I
right?
didn't know how much of a fan I was until I left Tulsa and went to Topeka and didn't have it, and I realized what I'd missed. So yes, I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of things that make sense, common sense, right? And so it
Yeah,
just makes sense. So I'm a big fan of being smart and doing things in a smart way. So that makes me a fan of this model.
I like that. So for anyone listening who's like, man, this sounds great. I want to try to do something like this in our community. What kind of pitfalls do you need to watch out for? What do you just need to be aware of before you embark on something like this?
That it's messy at first and that it takes a while. Then even once the organization is actually created, it's even a little messy for a little while. And when you start bringing organizations that are separate organizations, benefits are different, providers are different, CRMs are different. So that's one thing is it's just a little messy. Even just going through the bylaws process is a little bit messy. It's kind of like, to me, it's like building an F1 car. The engineers and all those people they're in the garage. That race is actually won in the garage. It's not one on the track. And so you're
Yeah,
building this F1 car. Once you have that F1 car built, then you're going to be able to win races, right? And then the other thing is the pitfall is just that ego thing. Egos from boards, egos from staff and things like that. I had a dear friend in a community in the northern part of the United States that created a multi-organization alliance. And my dear friend, she thought that she would end up being the CEO of that multi-organization community development alliance, and she didn't end up getting that role. They ended up doing a national search, and they brought somebody else in. 2 years later, she said that was the best thing that this community could have done for this community. So there are some pitfalls. There are some things to
yeah,
look out for. Make sure staff's not leading it. Make sure it's the community leaders have to want it. If it's the staff wanting this, that's gonna be a tough one to work. The community has to really want it.
yeah. I think that's huge. So you brought up an interesting point with like benefits and CRMs being
Yeah.
different. Is the goal to eventually align them all to be the same, or do you continue operating differently for some period of time for a
You
transition
have
period?
to, yeah, you have to
Yeah,
continue. So there are some CRM companies that are really good. And right now it'd be a weird time to be doing too much work on CRM because AI is probably going to change the way that CRM is going to work in the future. But yeah, the different platforms, the different audiences, things like that. It's kind of like it's really like getting married and just kind of figuring out like
yeah.
I like this toothpaste. You like that toothpaste. Eventually, we're either going to have separate toothpaste, which is okay, or maybe we can come together and use the same toothpaste. I think CRMs are kind of like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's all the details that, once you get into it, you realize, oh, we got to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else about having an alliance or collaborative that you
No,
think is worth mentioning for those listening that just to be aware of or think about going forward?
I could talk about it all day. I think you would be hard pressed to find anybody that's either those people that deserve all the credit that stayed together, or organizations that have like One Spartanburg Inc. I think if you called their elected officials, their community leaders, and their staff leaders, they would all say, yeah, this is definitely the way to do business for the betterment of your region and your community and your economy.
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple questions I like
Yeah.
asking every
Cool.
guest that I have on the show. So, the first one is for those listening who are trying to take their organization up to the next level, what kind of tip or action item would you share with them as they strive towards that goal?
If you're trying to take your organization or your community to the next goal, there's a couple things. One is make sure that your core values of your organization are so crystal clear and that you remind yourself on a daily basis what your core values are. Hire to those core values and be ready to fire to those core values and constantly remind your community the core values you live by. There are a lot of opportunities for you to be able to say no because things don't align with your core values. I'd say in our business, one of your core values better be an absolute passion and love for your community.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's a big miss. So, and then the other thing too is I would say on a more micro level, personal level, make sure that you have your personal core values align with your organization's core values, and be working on your staff, your employees, and yourself to try to make sure that you're the best leader possible for your community.
I think that's a great tip. As we look to the future of chambers of commerce, you're an ACC board. How do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Actually, I'm a past ACC board member.
That's right.
I think I've been on every board in the industry, and so sometimes they ask me to come back, and I'm like, yeah, it's like you're retreading a tire.
That's right.
I would say the future, and I'm gonna be very specific to chambers, but
Yeah.
if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. So when I say chamber, I'm talking chambers, economic development, destination development, community development organizations. The future is ACC, and I really like Sherry Ann puts out the Edelman Trust Barometer. Right now, we're an entity that is still trusted in America. And take that level of trust and take that passion that you have for the community and know this. Chambers cannot take a day off, a week off, or a month off. What we're working on is literally setting the prosperity projection for your community for decades and decades and decades. And so if you're not good, you're causing harm to the very people that live in your community. If you're good and if you're passionate and you take your job very seriously, knowing that everybody's relying on you, you're actually creating prosperity for the children in your community, their prosperity in the future, and their children and their children. It is that important. And I think that chambers need to just remember, this is not a career. This is not a job. This is a mission. And it's as important as public health and public safety, because we're creating that prosperity that drives the success and social determinants of health in the community.
Man, I want to record that like we are and share that with every new
Sure.
chamber exec who gets hired.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Matt, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information for listeners who might want to reach out and connect with you, learn more about how you've done this, or just dig in a little bit deeper maybe on anything you've mentioned today.
Yeah, the best way right now, my guess is it'll change, but they'll keep this one hot for a while, is matt.pivarnick at visitmyrtlebeach.com. I know that doesn't represent the entire collaborative, but I want every time someone sees my email address, I want them to think about visiting Myrtle Beach. And the other thing is that I know that probably everybody that's watching this will probably consider or is considering right now making a trip here. Make sure if you do, just look me up and let's have a cup of coffee or a lunch or something like that. Maybe even play golf. This is the golf capital of the world, 80
Right.
golf courses. So yeah, find me. The best way right now is email and find me, and I'm happy to be connected with you, learn from you, and then if you have something to learn from me, then we've both benefited there.
Yeah. Myrtle Beach is a beautiful area, and I'll add to that just to get people there and visit and check it out and look Matt up.
It's
Matt,
paradise.
this has been awesome to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for setting aside some time and sharing your experience with us. It's so valuable to hear what's been successful, what's working for you guys there in Myrtle Beach, and thanks for being a part of the show.
Yeah, and thanks for remembering me, Brandon. I appreciate it.
If you are a chamber professional, be sure to subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast on your favorite podcast app or now on YouTube, so you never miss a new episode. New episodes are released each week and delivered right to you. If you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show. And most importantly, share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues in the industry so we can continue to grow and strengthen the chamber community together.
This episode is brought to you by Riverside. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast for your chamber or your business, one of the biggest challenges is recording high-quality audio and video, especially when you and your guest aren't in the same room. Riverside is the platform I use to record every episode of the show. It gives you studio-quality audio and video right from your browser, automatically backs up your files, and even creates clips you can use on social media. It's designed to make podcasting simple and professional without the headaches. If you're ready to launch your podcast or upgrade your recordings, head over to chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside to get started today. Again, that's chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside, the same tool I trust to bring you these conversations every week.